Hi! We have decided here at the Phantom Rickshaw House to do a little video about our chicken coop, because a lot of people know that we tried to build what is for us the perfect chicken coop last year, and either ask how it's going or want to know how to vermin-proof theirs, whatever. So instead of we do bring people over here to show them quite often actually, but I figured it would be handy to have this all online. So we're doing a tour of our chicken coop and how it's going and mistakes we made and things we've had to fix now that we've had this one for a year. I should just say that we do have 2 chicken coops now because of, you know, chicken dynamics and sometimes needing another one, and this one isn't finished, isn't painted yet, but basically it's the same concept as this one, just smaller and using a little bit more random supplies in a more difficult corner. But basically this one, it is working very well for us now. It's vermin proof now that we've fixed it, and yeah, it's, well, I'll get to all the parts, but first of all, the way we made it vermin proof mostly is by using this hardware cloth or landscape fabric, whatever you want to call it. And this is, I think it's about 1/2 inch, or no, it's not 1/2 inch, it's maybe 1/4 inch or something. And it is actually sunk 10 to 12 inches down into the ground with a layer of drain rock all under there as well, so that nothing can really dig through the rock. Even if it wanted to dig a foot down, it would be too difficult. Which is also, of course, drainage, because we want to keep it dry in there for the chickens. So that's the main thing. However, we did make a mistake, and this, so the hardware cloth is held onto the frame of the building with these pieces of cedar lath, and, or just 1x2s actually. And we had, in a few places, we had used nails instead of screws. And if you look over here, there's this very ratched looking 1x2. That's because it was pulled off by an otter last summer. And luckily, part of our vermin proofing is that it's right next to our bedroom, this whole chicken arrangement. So I heard the otter in the middle of the night and I got up and scared him away. He came back 3 times in like 10 minutes. But the next day we thoroughly attached this with screws, as you can see here. And that seems to have done the trick. Otters are really, really, really strong. So actually he had pushed up the 2x2 square fencing that we have in the outer run, which isn't vermin proof, we know that, but regardless, he had pushed it up so it was like a, like you know, a sheet or a curtain. If you would push it up, you could see all the folds. It's amazing how strong they are. So yeah, you have to kind of bulletproof these places. And we have actually these hooks have a little hole through them, so we haven't had raccoons here yet, but they are on the island, so we can actually put a little paper clip or a wire through there to make it impossible to just go in for animals with little hands. And yeah, so that's our vermin proofing. Oh, and this, so they have a much bigger, actually 3 runs out there, and those are, you know, sort of vermin proof. A dog couldn't go running in, or a mink would have to do a big climb over before it got in. But and they have strings over them to keep the birds out. Actually, I'll take you over there. So this is the back. Actually, they are, if you look over here, this area is lawn, and we're actually trying to replace this with a more sustainable lawn, so we're getting the chickens to dig it up. This is a temporary run. That's their main run behind. But if you look on the top, we have strings all over the place. And we have had owls sitting here and eagles out here. And as long as we have the strings, you know, they're about 1 foot apart, they can't get down and up. Ravens or crows might be able to if they're very careful, but they haven't yet. So that's our bird plan, and it seems to be working. But basically, the outer run is where they are when we're home, and generally it's safe, you know, or in the daytime. So in the evening, they get shut into their house, which you can see back there, and we'll go back there now. Okay, so this brings me to the next thing. Not so much vermin proofing anymore, because basically this is their vermin proof box, which they can go around underneath. But also, chickens and light. This is an issue. So they have windows because chickens need the light. Actually, they have sensors in their brains that perceive light through their skulls, and that the light that is, I guess, detected or absorbed, I don't really know, from those sensors determines how much they'll lay. So they lay more when there's more light, which is why around, you know, spring, summer, fall, they're laying more, and then they take a break in the winter. But so we want light to get in there. Also, chickens don't have very good eyesight, so they need to have enough light that they can find their way around in there. So that's great. But then in like June, when it's light at 4:30 in the morning, they start crowing and they want to get up, and we don't want that. So I'm not going to close this right now, but we have these shutters, and there's another one on the back window. That means we can shut them overnight and wake them up at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's not 100% effective because some light comes in through the vents, but yeah, they're waking up around 5:30, but they don't carry on until about 6. So it's helping a little. Before we go inside, I just want to talk about climate change a little bit. We are having to adjust this coop to compensate for climate change because we originally helped with our parents' chickens, you know, 10 to 30 years ago, and we just had much more predictable seasons then. So last winter, these are our nesting boxes. We had hens brooding, and then suddenly it was -19 or something at night. And that's not usual here on the coast at all. So we had to apply temporary insulation under here, and everything went okay, but that was a bit of an emergency. So now we're insulating the whole inside, which also helps with the crowing in the middle of the night. And it has been over 40 degrees here, I guess 2 weeks ago. So yeah, we're having to deal with that as well. And our chickens are not used to it, and it was a crazy heat wave, and we may get more of them. So we have installed, you can see this cable here, which hopefully will tidy up a little later, but it actually goes to a solar panel on the front there. And if you come inside, it attaches to this fan right here. So when the fan's going, which it doesn't need to be right now, and it's not very hot, but when it's hot, it's sunny usually. So that solar panel feeds this, and it doesn't have a battery. It can only go when there's sun. But we have it set up so that it directs air onto their makeshift nesting box here. We do have nesting boxes in there, but our first rooster convinced them all that they had to lay on the shelf, so we finally gave in and just gave them this, and they keep laying here. But it turned out in the heat this was great because it's nicely ventilated and cool. So now we have a fan hooked up to there, and it also pulls the heat out, or the air out, and hopefully the heat too, through their vent up there. So that is part of our climate change planning. So this is inside. There's Blue. Were you going to lay? Well, you're not Blue. You're Blue's baby. Hi. I think she's considering laying. She hasn't laid yet. Yeah, I know. We're filming. Sorry. So inside our coop. First of all, we have it raised off the ground, as I mentioned before, which is great because it gives the chickens all that extra room underneath. And because of the roof over this whole area, they have this dry area, which of course chickens like, and it can be really muddy in the winter here. So they always have a nice dry, dusty place for dust bathing and where we store their food and stuff also. And then up here we have, I've forgotten what this stuff is called. It's like a plastic deck cover that you can buy. And we've covered the floor in that. So just for, you know, to prevent rot and moisture on the wood. And then we have a bit of a ridge here around their exit. This exit can come up and down, by the way. So we can close them in if we need to when it's super cold, but usually we just leave this open and they have the run of outside overnight. But this is basically deep bedding, though they've been really scratching it up in there today apparently. But it basically, it's wood chips, so it just dries out the poop, and we just, well, we being Tally behind the camera, remove the poop every day, and you know, the little bits that are in there sort of just dry themselves up and stay over months, and we rarely actually have to change the whole bedding. These are their roosts, and actually you can see the shutters still closed on this window, but anyway. One last thing, I think. This is our chick adjustment, or broody hen adjustment, I should say. So when a hen goes broody, they usually do it in the nesting box. And of course, when our nesting box is dropped straight off to the level of the coop, the chicks could easily fall out, and then the hens would be, you know, they'd have to make a choice between sitting on the already hatched chicks or the ones that were still hatching, and that can be a problem. So my kids actually built this, which is a sort of, I don't know, call it a playground out front of the nesting boxes there, and it just gives the chicks a nice place that they can run around and be safe and not get lost outside while the others are hatching or whatever. And this is raised to a specific height that means they can't get out until they're a few days old, and then they can make it up there and off the ramp when their mother takes them out. This, we don't have the feeders in here right now, and I don't see one around, but when we have chick waterers and feeders, the hens always spill them. So my partner actually built this, which just sits down over top of the jars, and that way they don't spill them. That's it. That's all I can think of. Oh, we have a thermometer in the house, and that's the receiver for it. So we can see from inside the house how hot it's getting in here, or how cold last winter, which has been just reassuring for us. I don't think it's necessary, but it feels better to have some idea what's happening. So one last thing, these are all obviously our vermin-proof doors, but this is the chicken's little door. So this is the one that's usually open and gets closed at night. Little guillotine door. Anyway, and yeah, way back in the beginning when we first built this, my partner put a little pulley up there, and we had a line going to our bedroom window so we could just let them out. But then we realized we always want to check how they're doing, and you know, so we can't just open it and not come out. So we never used that, and we're back to just having a regular pulley. And I think that's it. You want to see the chickens? Just for a second, because I love them. They're Splashy, our only remaining rooster. So that's it. We'll just open the shutters here, which should have been opened earlier. And I hope it was helpful. Happy chicken coop building. Bye. You want to get down? Hey. Look in the camera? Look in the camera. He's like, what are we doing?